My name is Councillor Martin Seaton. I am the chair of this committee. Before we start the meeting, I have a few announcements to make about the meeting rules. This meeting will be recorded by the council and uploaded to the council's YouTube channel tomorrow. Please note all guests will have their microphone muted when they join the meeting. You'll be asked to remain on mute unless I ask you to speak, for example, in the 3-minute slot reserved for objectors, applicants, supporters and ward councillors. Please do not open your microphone until I've given you permission to speak. Attendees who are using the telephone dialing function on a smartphone are asked to mute their microphones directly on their devices. Open microphones may cause feedback. To ensure this virtual meeting runs smoothly, only one individual will be allowed to speak at a time. Any person speaking must be permitted to finish what they're saying without interruption. If I request that an individual stop speaking, they should do so immediately. Interruptions may result in you being disconnected from the meeting. If a member of the committee wishes to speak, could I ask them to indicate this via the raise hand symbol or in the message boards? Members of the public are reminded that the message board is not for public use. Any messages left on the message boards by members of the public will be disregarded by committee members. Please note all guests will be made attendees after, Please note all guests will be made attendees after they've entered the meeting. A message should now be shown on your screen to indicate that this has been done. Bearing in mind that the recording of this meeting will be posted on the council's YouTube channel, if you're planning to speak at this meeting, you may choose to switch off your camera so that only your voice will be heard. Members of the public who are disconnected from the meeting due to technical difficulties should use the link or dialing instructions they were sent initially to return to the meeting. If a member of the committee or officer loses internet connection or power, can they please inform the clerk of this via the WhatsApp group immediately so that we can adjourn the meeting until the connection has been restored. Members of the public are welcome to record, screenshot or tweet the public proceedings of the meeting. A copy of the council's protocol for reporting and filming is available on the council's website. During the meeting, members of the public, members of this committee will not access the internet except as it relates to the official business of the meeting, send or receive email, text, message or tweet concerning the business of the committee to anyone outside the meeting. Please note that members may be accessing the agenda via the internet. I would now like to ask officers to introduce themselves and explain their role at this meeting. If I begin with the planning officers, and if I can begin with the Director of Planning, Simon.
Good afternoon, my name is Simon Bevan, I'm the Director.
Can you all ensure your microphones are muted?
Okay, my name is Simon Bevan, I'm Director of Planning and I advise the Planning Committee on general planning matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick, have you got it?
Good afternoon, Chair, Committee, members of the public. My name is Patrick Cronin. I'm the Planning Officer dealing with this planning application.
Thank you. I believe we have Alex, Transport.
Good afternoon, Chair, the committee members. I'm the transport. My name is Alex Onyebade. I'm the transport officer advising on transport issues on this development proposal.
Thank you. If I may now, unless there are no other planning officers present, I'll move on to the legal officers. If I can invite John.
Excuse me, there are a couple of others present, if you don't mind me interrupting.
I think there were. It's not on my notes here, you see, that's all. Can I ask you to introduce yourselves? Yep, please introduce yourselves.
I'm Martin Mackay, and I am part of the Design and Conservation section, advising on these matters with regard to this scheme from the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other planning officers?
Yes, Chair.
Who wishes to go first? The ladies first.
Thank you. I'm Yvonne Lewis. I'm the Strategic Applications Manager for the Council, so I'm here to assist the Case Officer Patrick Cronin.
Thank you, Yvonne. And one other person, I believe. Who's the other colleague?
Hello, Chair. I'm Chris Constable. I'm the Archaeology Officer, so I advise the planning officer on archaeological and some heritage issues.
Thank you. Have I now completed the planning team, Simon? Is that all completed?
Yes, that's all the planning team. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. If I may move on to the legal officer, is I believe John Goss. Is he here?
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair. I'm a solicitor and the legal officer for this meeting, advising on legal matters and any governance issues as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm assuming, John, there are no other legal officers with you?
No, just myself.
Ah, well done. Thank you. If I may now move to the clerk, I believe Gerald is present and other members of the constitutional team. Gerald?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Gerald Goller. I'm the constitutional officer and the clerk of this committee. I'm here to minute the meeting and to advise on the procedures for hearing the items and decision making.
Very good. Are there other members of the constitutional team present, Gerald?
Possibly Virginia, who's helping out in the background.
I'm also helping out in the background, Chair.
That's Tim. All right. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. What are you sure we're all fully covered? In that case, I will now formally start the meeting. Item 1 is apologies, and I have apologies for Councillor Cleo Soames and Councillor Kath Whittams, and I believe we have reserved members for them, so duly noted. I'll now move on to item 2, which is confirmation of voting members. And I would ask members of the committee to confirm that they are voting members of this committee. And I'll do the usual roll call. I'll start with Councillor Barry Hargrove. Can you confirm you're a voting member?
I'm a voting member, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Darren Morell, the reserved member, but can I confirm that you are a voting member?
Yes, voting member, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dale Morris, can you confirm that you are a voting member?
Yes, voting member, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jane McCash, reserve member, can you confirm that you are a voting member?
I am a voting member.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Damien O'Brien, can you confirm you are a voting member?
Voting member, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Catherine Rose, can you confirm that you are present and a voting member?
I can confirm I'm present and a voting member, Chair.
Oh, wonderful. And I can also confirm I'm Councillor Martin Seaton and I'm also a voting member. Thank you very much. I will now proceed. I'm assuming the clerk is happy. I'll now proceed. Item 3, notification of any item of business which the chair deems urgent. The following additional documents have been circulated before the meeting. So all members here should have copies of the addendum report relating to item 5.1 and also have present the members' pack. Can you confirm that you have those documents?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll now move on to item 4, disclosure of interest and dispensation. Does any member wish to declare any interest or dispensation in respect of any item or issue to be considered at this meeting? No?
The Chair,
No,
yes.
Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Morris, yes. Councillor Morris?
Oh, not again.
We can hear. I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, Chair. I don't have an interest in this item, but it is in my ward. I went to an early exhibition, but I've had no discussions with either the applicants or members of the community in relation to this, and I specifically haven't expressed a view at any point in the proceedings.
That's fine. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. And are there any further declarations to be made by members of the committee? If not, I'll move on in that case then. I'll move on to item 5, which is development management. The next item of business concerns the determination of planning applications. I would like to remind everyone of the committee's guidance and conduct of business. Officers will present the report, outline their recommendations and answer questions raised by the committee. If present and wishing to speak, the following may then address the committee for no more than 3 minutes each. A spokesperson representing any objector to the application, and by now you need to have identified a single spokesperson. If more than one objector wishes to speak, the time will be allocated and divided accordingly within the 3 minutes time slot, followed by the applicant or their agent. Then they will be followed by a spokesperson representing any supporter of the application who live within 100 metres of the development site. And last but not least, a ward councillor representing the area affected by the application. Each speaker should restrict their comment to the planning aspects of the proposal and should avoid repeating information which is already in the report. The meeting is not a hearing where all participants present evidence to be cross-examined by other participants. At the end of each representation, the committee may ask questions of the presenter. Speakers should leave the committee on subject which they would welcome further questioning. Ward members in attendance and those nominated to speak on behalf of objectors, supporters and applicants may be asked to make further brief contribution in case any issues need to be clarified after they've addressed the meeting. Now, this is not an opportunity to take part in the debate of the committee. After receiving all submissions, the committee will debate the application and consider the recommendations. This is a council committee meeting which is open to the public, but there should be no interruption to members of the public. Finally, I'd like everyone present to know that although the committee comprises members of different political parties, we are not politically whipped. Our decisions are made in accordance with the council planning policy and based upon information contained in the relevant reports together with the consultation responses and any verbal submission made today. How we approach this application is set out in the Development Management Report at item 7, and if members are happy to note the report, we'll move to considering the planning application. Are members happy with the report? Yes, I'll take that to be yes. Now, thank you very much. I'll now move on to the considering the officer's report. So this is item 5.1, Landmark Court bounded by Southwark Street, Red Cross Way and Bones Graveyard. This is London SE1. And members, these are pages 7 to 188 of the agenda pack and the relevant pages in the addendum report. Can I invite the officer considering the report to make their presentation? The officer presenting the report to make their presentation. Who will be making the presentation?
It's Patrick, Chair.
Oh, I can't hear.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just trying to share my screen, but having a few technical difficulties. Bear with me 2 seconds.
It happens the way.
I know there's often a slight delay between what I can see and what you can see. So once you can see the front page of my presentation, can you alert me?
Yeah, it's scrolling through. We can see your desktop.
Hopefully the front page should pop up in a second. I can see it, but clearly there's a bit of a delay. You've got it?
We can now see it. Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Planning application 19/AP/0830 proposes the redevelopment of the Landmark Court site, which is a roughly L-shaped plot of largely open land in the London Bridge area of the borough. The site is bounded along its northern edge by Southwark Street, with the historic Hop Exchange building and Borough Market opposite. To the east, the site is backed onto by the buildings lining Borough High Street, including the Muse properties at Calvert's Buildings and St Margaret's Court. Abutting the site to the southeast are the converted residential warehouses at Maidstone Mews and a London Underground substation. Along its southern and western perimeters, the site is bounded by Union Street and Red Cross Way, respectively. On the western side of Red Cross Way is a cluster of buildings, including residential and employment uses, a place of worship and a pub. A railway viaduct flanks the northwestern corner of the site. Although the site is largely open land, it contains 3 buildings, one of which is a 4-storey non-listed Victorian property at 15 Southwark Street. In this photograph, you can see the building partially on the left-hand side of the image, shrouded in hoarding. Within the southern corner of the site is Crossbones, an unconsecrated burial ground and now a garden of remembrance, currently managed by Bankside Open Spaces Trust. Cleared in the late 1990s to facilitate the construction of the Jubilee Line extension, the site has since the 2000s been used for car parking and informal storage. And has formed a prominent and unsightly gap in Southwark Street for decades. The site is a TfL land holding released for redevelopment by the Mayor in 2016. The proposal, which is a joint venture between TfL and property developer U&I, seeks permission for a mixed-use redevelopment comprising 6 interconnected buildings ranging from 3 to 9 stories in height, and the refurbishment of the existing 4-storey Victorian property at 15 Southwark Street, together with a range of new public spaces and a package of enhancements for Crossbones. As the diagram on the left-hand side of this slide shows, the buildings have been arranged so as to reinstate a continuous frontage along Southwark Street, and in an arc formation, they would follow the line of the viaduct to return onto Red Cross Way, with the buildings of greater height positioned close to the viaduct. They would then step down towards Crossbones and the existing properties to the south and east. I will briefly talk through the buildings and the uses they will contain. You can use the diagram in the top left of each slide to follow which building is which. 15 Southwark Street, which is currently derelict, would be refurbished and extended at roof level to provide a flexible commercial unit at street level with 4 flats above, 1 to each of the floors. Adjacent to 15 Southwark Street is the proposed office cluster. This essentially is a single building designed to outwardly appear as 4 conjoined buildings and containing extensive open plan office floor plates on all of the upper floors. Going from east to west, first would be the Southwark Street building, to be 6 stories with rooftop plants and containing 4 flexible retail cultural units at ground floor level. Next to this would be the 8-storey viaduct building. At ground level, it would contain a flexible retail cultural unit and the office reception, and these 2 spaces would frame a new north to south route through the site. The next building along would be the west building. The tallest of all the buildings, it would comprise 9 stories and stand 44.2 metres AD at its highest point. As with the other buildings in the cluster, all upper floors would be given over to office use. At ground floor, it would contain a flexible retail cultural unit and would front onto the proposed new section of the low line. The final building in the cluster, the Woods Yard building, would be part 8-storied and part 5-storied. It would provide a mix of flexible commercial units and affordable workspace at ground floor level. At the centre of the site would be the main residential block, conceived as a contemporary interpretation of a warehouse with a pitched roof and projecting platform-style balconies. It would step down from 8 to 5 stories, incorporate play space, communal external roof gardens, an inner courtyard, and include a range of affordable workspace on the lower floors. In total, it would contain 32 dwellings, which I will talk about more in a minute or two. The final building would be a 3-storey workshop given over exclusively to affordable workspace. It would face towards the residential east building, a sense of which you can get from the image in the top right-hand corner of this slide. This ground floor plan shows the configuration of these buildings and the public spaces that will create. Here are a few images of those new public spaces. Looking specifically at uses now, the retail cultural offer of the 9 units I've already mentioned would be complemented by a small marketplace of up to 9 pitches that would be located in Calvert's Yard, one of those new public spaces I mentioned on the previous slide. And then in terms of the B1 floor space, in total, Landmark Court would deliver 21,680 square metres of new Grade A space. And then of that, 10% would be provided on an affordable basis. So that's a long-term stable discount at 70% of the market rate for a period of 30 years. These plans show the arrangement of the affordable workspace units. And then in terms of the residential component, 36 dwellings would be delivered in total across the residential East Block and 15 Southwark Street. 50% would be affordable at a policy compliant 70-30 split social rent to London living rent, and would be provided in a range of dwelling sizes. The development meets all the private outdoor space, communal outdoor space and play-space requirements on site. In respect of Crossbones burial ground, the developer has worked in collaboration with BOST and the Friends of Crossbones to prepare a landscaping scheme. This landscaping will be prioritised in the building programme, and the works will be overseen by the council's archaeologists to ensure the burials are protected. The terms of a lease agreement have also been negotiated between the developer and BOST, who are the non-profit organisation likely to take on the management responsibilities for the burial ground. The agreed terms, including ongoing funding, will allow the space to be open to the general public for greatly improved hours each day of the week. The lease will be for 30 years, with renewal at least every 5 years. At the time of completing the committee report, 22 representations had been received from the general public about this planning application. The addendum published on June 12 captured the additional representations, of which there were 6, bringing the total to 28. Since then, further representations have been received. And in fact, I have a slide that just summarises those here. So as of 12 noon today, the total number of representations stood at 44, with 34 in objection. And actually since 12 o'clock, there has been another one, so it's now 45. And that was an objection, so it's 35 in objection. If I just quickly skim back and just talk through some of these, some of the main planning objections. Firstly, housing. So 2 main points on this. The first is that the total number of dwellings proposed is inadequate. Many of those representations raising the point that the Mayor of London had back in 2016 envisioned this site as potentially having the capacity to deliver in the region of 100 to 120 dwellings. And this proposal, as originally submitted, had 35. In response, the applicant has managed to increase the number to 36. In terms of the affordable housing offer, originally this scheme was proposing 35%, and that was with a tenure compliant split social rent to intermediate rent, but the intermediate product was DMS, that's discount market sale. Through the course of the application process and in response to neighbour objections, the applicant has now agreed to offer 50% of the dwellings as affordable. That's on a habitable room basis. And they've also switched the intermediate product from discount market sale to London living rent, which is recognised as a more as a genuinely affordable intermediate product. In terms of design, objections are around the overall height, design and massing, and the impact that might have on open spaces, including Crossbones. And attendant with that is the impact on nearby heritage assets and the nearby heritage assets, in particular the Borough High Street Conservation Area and London and local views. In response, during the course of the application process, the design has evolved. There was a reduction to a number of the there was a reduction in height to a number of the proposed buildings, and additional embellishment was given to some of the elevations so that they were less pared back.
Forgive me for interrupting. The screen hasn't changed. Oh, it is now moved. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, sorry.
Continue. Okay.
Are you seeing the screen that says retail market offer?
I can now.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Then we also had a number of objections, or some objections, in fact, largely from the trustees of Borough Market, raising concerns around the quantum of retail space, whether or not it would prioritise Class A, so the more conventional retail offer, and then also the market space and the potential impacts that might have on the offer of the nearby borough market. And in response to these issues, the applicant has agreed to limit the number of Class A4 and Class D occupiers, and then also agree to a condition that would ensure that there's a minimum number of units occupied for Class A1 purposes. And then another issue related to the marketplace. So again, that's a 9-store marketplace, so relatively small, was around sort of noise and nuisance and odour impacts. And so the applicant has again agreed to a condition. That one would limit the hours of use so that there isn't any of those kind of activities taking place in the evening when they might be disturbing to neighbours. On this same issue around neighbour amenity impacts, a number of objections have been received in respect of the daylight and sunlight impacts that neighbours may be subject to. It is recognised that daylight and sunlight impacts would be caused to neighbouring properties, in particular 11 Southwark Street, Triangle Court and Wiltshire House at Maidstone Building Mews. As the committee report sets out, this negative impact on amenity should be accorded some weight in the determination of this application. However, we have set out in the report that we consider that in the round, and notwithstanding those impacts, the merits of the scheme outweigh its negative impacts, hence our recommendation for approval. It should be noted, though, that, as I've mentioned already, a number of the buildings were reduced in height, partly in response to the issues around daylight, sunlight, outlook and sense of openness. And there was also a neighbour objections on the grounds of reduced privacy. It should be noted that some of the buildings, including the residential building, which is arguably one of the closest buildings to nearby existing residential properties, has actually been designed to incorporate some features that would help limit overlooking of nearby properties. There was also a number of objections around, or a number of concerns around construction management. Specifically that the construction vehicles may conflict with the operations of borough markets, and that they may cause cumulative highway and environmental impacts. As generally is the case, a outline construction environmental management plan was submitted with the application. The relevant departments internally, as well as TfL, have assessed this and consider it to be adequate. But of course, there will then be the final CEMP that will come at the conditions stage, and that will be expected to address all of these concerns and ensure minimised highway and environmental impacts. And then on Crossbones, there are 3 main issues. The first is around the appropriateness of the landscaping proposals. As I've already set out, the scheme was devised in collaboration with Friends of Crossbones and BOST. We're also going to recommend that a condition is imposed requiring further engagement from the developer in respect of the hard and soft landscaping, and then that evidence of that should be provided as part of that condition in order that it be discharged. The second matter was around the package of funding to support the long-term management of the burial ground. The negotiations that I was referring to earlier on have materialised in an agreement for an initial sum from the developer to the non-profit organisation, likely to be BOST, who will be managing this space at £25,000 for the first 6 months. And then once the 6-month point has arrived, thereafter there should be an agreed per annum sum that will be committed to, and that will be drawn down from the rents paid on the office element of the scheme. So it would be an ongoing sum. And then the third item here is around the measures to protect Crossbones from development in perpetuity. The developer has, or will enter into a covenant through the Section 106 agreement not to develop the land. It should also be recognised that there is a policy designation that applies to Crossbones, that is other open space, that heavily restricts the potential for development of the land. And additional to that, obviously BOST will have this lease of 30 years with a 5-year renew mechanism, so effectively always ensuring that the lease is never less than 25 years. So there is a degree of protection afforded in that respect, but the main measure here is that the developer covenants not to develop the land. And this is the slide that you saw a few moments ago. summarising the additional planning considerations that have been raised today, in the last few days since the publication of the addendum. And really here, I'm just mentioning the issues that have been raised by these new representations that weren't raised by earlier public responses. That said, most of these issues have already been accounted for in the committee report. Just quickly before concluding, I need to mention some additional items that weren't on the addendum. The first is the addition of a new compliance condition. This will require that the applicant carries out the archaeological works in accordance with their WSI. You will probably recall from the addendum that the applicant is looking to proceed with the archaeological works in advance of a planning permission, which our archaeologist is happy with, as long as there's the necessary mechanisms in place to ensure that that is done correctly and in accordance with the WSI. This additional condition is simply if that isn't in place before permission is granted, and then of course by issuing the permission with this new condition, they can then undertake the works under the permission, but they're still being required to adhere to the strategy as set out in the WSI. The second is just some clarifications to the planning obligations table provided in the committee report. Specifically, it's in relation to the transport and highways item, and there are two items here. The first is that alongside the described Section 278 works on the Transport for London road network, there will be a contribution towards the Healthy Streets initiative. The second is that the obligations do not mention a potential contribution that may be triggered if the existing docking points cannot be relocated at the front of the sites. That will be a sort of pro rata sum depending on the number of docking units that need to be removed and the length of time for which they are removed. In conclusion, and for the reasons outlined in this presentation, it is considered that this development would bring into beneficial reuse one of Bankside's longest standing undeveloped sites, delivering a proposal of a high quality of design sensitive to its historic context. It would provide high quality office floor space, a range of flexible cultural retail units, affordable workspace, 36 new dwellings, of which 50% would be affordable, comprising social rent and London Living rent, the latter being a genuinely affordable intermediate housing product. This would be complemented by a range of new publicly accessible spaces, as well as enhancements to and the long-term protection of Crossbones burial ground. While a number of public representations have raised concerns about matters such as servicing and construction management, the framework documents adequately demonstrate the transport and environmental impacts will be mitigated and detailed strategies will be sought through conditions and the Section 106 agreement subsequent. It is recognised that there would be a substantial impact upon the daylight and sunlight enjoyed by some of the residential occupiers of surrounding buildings, but on balance, while recognising the impacts, it is concluded that the merits of the scheme and the context within which it would sit would not justify the refusal of planning permission. In line with the requirements of the NPPF, the Council has applied the presumption in favour of sustainable development. The proposal would accord with sustainable principles and would make efficient use of a prominent vacant brownfield site to deliver a high quality development that is in accordance with the Council's aspirations for the area. It is therefore recommended that members grant permission subject to conditions as set out in the draft decision notice, referral to the GLA, and the timely completion of a Section 106 agreement. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. Now then, I've got here a note for Councillor Morris and O'Brien and Councillor Rose. Can I just remind members, please, if your questions are technical questions on the report, we're not expressing opinions, and if there are questions that quite rightly could be answered by the applicant, let's do that, just so that we can move the meeting along. So let's start with Councillor Morris, first of all. You're mute. You are on mute.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I may have to take my picture off because sometimes that affects the quality, but yeah, so if I disappear, I'm still here.
All right.
I just wanted to ask, particularly in relation to the retail units on Red Cross Way, and there's a reference in the report in paragraph 8 about the about bringing active frontages to Southwark Street and Red Cross Way. So Red Cross Way is a very small, very narrow street, and it has got a pub, and then the rest is residential. There isn't a church on Red Cross Way. There is one little office unit underneath the arch, but it's predominantly residential. And I just wondered why there was a view from officers that it would be appropriate to put active frontages, and in particular to put a restaurant on that corner.
Yes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. We can. Obviously, introducing active frontages is important in the CAS and in a town centre such as this. The unit wouldn't necessarily be a restaurant. I appreciate that some of the plans suggest it would be. It would, as you understand, be a flexible use between A1 and A4, but also potentially D2. So it wouldn't necessarily be a restaurant. Of course, it could be. It does have a frontage onto Red Cross Way with a return frontage onto Woods Yard. It's not actually that far from Southwark Street. It would provide activity to Woods Yard, and although I appreciate there is residential uses nearby, it would present a not an especially long frontage onto Red Cross Way. Activities, there is potential for some activities in the form of a few tables and chairs to be placed on Woods Yard, but other than that, the activity would be confined to within the unit itself. If I'm understanding correctly, your concern is around amenity impact, so noise and the like. Is that right?
Yes, and particularly, as you have just mentioned, the potential for tables and chairs to be put out into Woods Yard, because everybody's putting tables and chairs outdoors these days. And I note that the restrictions on the hours of operation of the the A-class units is, I think, 11 o'clock. But yeah, particularly concerned about the impact of that on the residents, given that it's such a small street. I just don't understand why on that little Southwark Street's very different, but Red Cross Way is a tiny little quiet street. And I can't understand how that was deemed suitable for any sort of, because A1, of course, could be a cafe. It's not necessarily a shop, and yeah, that's what I'm struggling to understand.
Well, you've had a response, unless Patrick wishes to further respond, but you've had a response, and it is the response. Yeah, okay. All right,
the only other thing I would maybe just say is that Woods Yard is very much conceived as having some activity in it. That doesn't seem inappropriate. It's a relatively open space. Yes, there are properties to the east at Maidstone Mews and into the west at Triangle Court. Triangle Court properties are all first floor or above. And there is obviously already a pub at the base of Triangle Court. So it wouldn't seem to be entirely out of character with the area. And I think really, obviously, to bring some activity and to create the sort of sense of life that I think the applicant has envisaged in Woods Yard, it is quite important to have commercial units arranged around this space, and potentially a restaurant or a cafe open till 11 o'clock at night doesn't actually seem especially unneighbourly. But obviously, I suppose if you were particularly concerned, you might want to look at perhaps, I don't know, limiting the opening hours to 1 hour earlier of that particular unit each evening. I don't know. It seems that it doesn't seem necessary in my view. We are here with what, a minute or two to walk from Southwark Street, Borough High Street, Borough Market, the CAS. We're in a town centre. It actually seems really, it's certainly in accordance with the site allocation and the aspirations of that, as well as the broad aspirations for this area. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. If I can now move on to Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming back to the lease on the Crossbones, as a planning authority, what power do we have to set that lease, given that we're not the landowner?
This is possibly best answered by John, although, sorry, John Gorst, Head of Legal Services.
Right here.
I don't know if John is available just to answer this.
Yes, well, it's a good question from Councillor O'Brien, because it's difficult to see that the Crossbones issue is actually a material planning consideration, and therefore I think it is difficult for the council to go too far into the realms of setting terms for the lease. I think the issue is that the applicant has offered certain terms, and therefore this can be included within the Section 106 agreement. There's no problem about that being included, and I think they've gone along with that because they know that because of legislation, because of the statutory position, in the light of various old statutes, their position is somewhat limited. I mean, there's two statutes which I think are relevant here. It's the Open Spaces Act from 1906, which would enable the council to acquire this site if we felt appropriate. And there's also the Disused Burial Grounds Act from 1884, which prevents them putting any buildings on the site, on the burial site at all. In those circumstances, I think the applicants reached the decision that they haven't really got anything to lose by agreeing these obligations in the lease. But I agree with Councillor O'Brien that as a planning authority, we couldn't otherwise impose those terms within the Section 106 agreement. But in this case, those terms have been offered and therefore clearly can be agreed.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Brien, for your question. Can I now take Councillor Catherine Rose?
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions. One in relation to the master plan layout of the whole site, if that's appropriate. And then I think slide 14 of the members' pack that I was sent this morning sort of shows a good sort of ground, floor plan or layout in that sense to support my question. I just wanted to check in relation to permeability of the site and the clustering of buildings on the shoulder of Southwark Street, as I see it, by the viaduct. And I think you may be able to sort of come back on this, but there has been a reflection of the sort of historic street plan around St Margaret's Court and Calvert's buildings, and the permeability of this sort of block, if you like, will be enhanced by the proposed layout and master plan, and the clustering of the buildings on that shoulder makes sense either to reflect that, but also to give that breathing space and buffer zone for the more sensitive area adjacent to Crossbones Yard. And I just wanted to check in a design context that if the site was to realise any other sort of uses and requirements, then that might then created a scheme that you might have impinged on that buffer zone between Woods Yard and Crossbones Graveyard. So my observation is, and my questions are, do you think that the clustering of buildings on that shoulder is probably the most appropriate use of the whole site, given the sensitivities around Crossbones and its location? And then my second question is around housing and a lot of reflection from...
Can I suggest, Councillor, forgive me, Councillor, maybe we just take your first question so we don't become lost. Patrick, would you respond to that?
Yes, thank you. So prior to the planning application, the applicant went through pre-application discussions with the council, and a key part of, or one of the key things that came out of that was the need to reinstate the Southwark Street frontage and to reflect the buildings that formerly stood on the site, which actually were quite substantial warehouse buildings along Southwark Street. And then, of course, there was this change in scale with the viaduct, hence why greater height on that corner, then returning round onto Red Cross Way where it would then step down, seemed logical, particularly as you very well put. There are quite a number of sensitive properties flanking this site along its eastern and southeastern edges, and it was for that reason that the buildings then tend to step down towards those edges of the site. So certainly in terms of the massing, there's been a lot of evolution and consideration that's gone into this to formulate this design where you've got slightly higher buildings along Southwark Street and next to the viaduct. Your question about, if I've understood correctly, about whether if at some future time the uses or an application was to come in to entirely change the uses in these buildings for something else, is a slightly difficult question to answer without seeing, for instance, what those uses might be. It is true that these blocks, particularly the blocks along Southwark Street and adjacent to the viaduct, are of such a kind of floor plate depth that they lend themselves best to office and commercial uses as proposed here. And that then the residential buildings, as you can expect, have been designed a little bit more to provide dual aspect and have a slightly narrower floor plate.
That was the purpose of the inquiry. In the sense of, my second inquiry was about the level of housing, that the variation from the original figures of the mayor's aspiration originally for the site and the scheme that's now been put forward. And my point was, if I wasn't very articulate, was to say that a larger quantum of housing and residential use would mean that the buildings would encroach on the complete sort of footplate of the total site, and it would be a lot closer to Crossbones site as well, potentially, in order to meet that.
As you suggest, it is true that residential buildings need that bit more breathing space. And so obviously there's lots of different things that have been considered and balanced here. There is a site allocation that actually does say that at least 50% of the site should be provided for commercial use. So the site allocation actually tends to direct the scheme towards that in any case. And as you suggest, I mean, there's been a lot of different discussions about the merits of natural surveillance, with quite a number of the objections saying that they wouldn't like a building that's looking onto Crossbones for extended periods of the day, which potentially you would get with a different scheme here. Obviously, you've got an office use. Yes, it would have some windows, but generally in office spaces, people are at their desks working. So you get, obviously, there are always different uses that need to be considered. And as you suggest, the more intensive uses, and those uses that do not require quite such slender floor plates, have been arranged around the northern and northwestern edge. And yes, it has to some extent perhaps affected the quantum of housing that's being provided on site. But it must be remembered that this is in the CAS, and the Mayor's CAS SPD does place greater weight on the provision of commercial uses in this location. And I think I did mention it in the committee report, but when the mayor came to the site in, I think it's late 2016, early 2017, and made a suggestion that the site had the capacity to accommodate between 100 and 120 houses, that was not a firm pledge. It was an aspiration. And since that time, that aspiration evolved into the multiple site approach that's set out in the mayor's portfolio. And so over time, what's happened is that the aspirations for this particular site as part of that portfolio have reduced from the 100 or 120 to a smaller amount, notwithstanding, and like I say, because of the designations that apply to this site where office and other commercial uses are to be prioritised, we do consider that the 36 dwellings proposed is an adequate quantum.
Thank you. I'll leave my question to the applicant then. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Lloyd. Thank you for understanding. I see that Councillor Morris's digital hand is still up, and I wonder if there's a question you could potentially direct to the applicant. You just allow the meeting to flow on.
It's actually a Chair, specifically to our highways, to Alex in highways, just because I just wanted to ask about something that the officer mentioned in his presentation. about the potential of a healthy streets initiative at some point down the line. And I just wondered, I presume that is in relation to Red Cross Way, and I just wondered if Alex could explain how you could do a healthy streets initiative on a street that's partially a servicing route for this new development. Just wondered if he could elaborate on what we might be expecting from that street.
Right. If I may, in regard to that question, because it doesn't pertain to the application, can I request that we reserve that, hold that question over to the final debate, because that'll be part of the sort of background information members might want to take into account and to enable them to make their determination. It doesn't address the report. Thank you very much. And if I may, then, if there are no further questions from other members, if I may move on to representations. Does anyone present who wish to speak in objection to the application? Now then, I believe the names I've got here are Lucy Coleman, Talbot, Amir Eden, and Valerie Cox. First of all, are you all present?
Hello.
Yes, present.
You are. No,
Hi, present, Amir.
Excellent. Now, I trust it would explain to you how we would typically conduct this part of our meeting. That in this case, the presenter is given 3 minutes to make their presentation. But I understand you've all agreed that you will have 1 minute each. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Right. Okay. In that case, so this is what I'll do. As part of the formality here, I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, your name, and you may want to give your location. Okay. Once you've all done that, I'll then start with Lucy Coleman Talbot to make her 1 minute presentation. Halfway through, Lucy, I will indicate you have 30 seconds remaining, so you know that I'll stop you at the 1 minute time frame. I'll then go on to Amir Eden. Similarly, I'll do exactly the same process. We give you 1 minute, 30 seconds, I'll tell you you've got 30 seconds remaining and stop you at a minute, and same for you, of course, Valerie Cox. Okay, so first of all, can I ask each of you, first of all, to introduce yourself to the committee? I'll start with Lucy, of course.
Hi, yes, my name's Lucy Talbot. I'm representing the Crossbones Forum, which was established in 2015. It makes up local residents, volunteers at Crossbones, and friends of Crossbones.
Thank you very much. Can I invite Emma Eden to introduce yourself to the committee?
Hi, my name is Amir Eden. I am a local resident to the site, but also executive chair of Living Bankside, established in 1995, represents and provides services to people living in Bankside Borough and SE1.
Excellent. And last but not least, Valerie Cox. Again, would you introduce yourself to your committee?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Valerie Cox. I'm a local resident. I live in Triangle Court on Red Cross Way, which is opposite the proposed development.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if the Patrick could remove your presentation from the screen? It's
I can do, Chair. I'm not. If I do stop broadcasting, is that going to? Can you see it anymore?
Right, it's gone. Now I can see the screens. Right. Very good. Very good. Very good. In that case, then let's begin. If I can invite Lucy, you have 1 minute. You may begin now.
Good afternoon. As detailed in the circulated document titled Crossbones Objections, the developers claim a long-term commitment to the protection of Crossbones Graveyard, which this planning application does not reflect. To ensure a good public realm as part of Section 106, it must be a requirement that Crossbones Graveyard has a 299-year lease, as per the rest of the Landmark Court development, and be allocated as borough or metropolitan open space. This is not just an other open space.
30 seconds.
This is an ancient burial ground and part of Southwark's heritage, history, green space and contemporary community. Community campaigns ran during the 1880s and 1990s to protect this site, a commitment spanning 140 years. It should be protected in perpetuity, and this application does not guarantee this. Thank you.
Thank you. You were within your 1 minute, but that's fine. Okay. If I could invite Emir to make your presentation, and you may begin now.
I hope you're well and your families are well. This application must be rejected as its negative impacts outweigh the little positives. The application is unambitious and illustrates a failure to make best use of opportunities possible on this large site, which is public land. I'm not able to go into the full details, so please ask me in the question and answer. The grounds for objection are lack of quality consultation and associated failure to satisfy the public sector equalities duty and equalities obligations under Human Rights Act in relation to BAME and elderly protected characteristics, lack of generally affordable homes on public land, potentially for key workers, due to Southwark Planning Authority's direction to reduce number of homes, daylight and sunlight impact, absence of impact assessment on the other residents which will be affected, over-commercialisation of public land, servicing issues, construction management, and a number of amenity and heritage impact, lack of long-term protection for Crossbones Garden, potential impact on highway safety, failure to be a carbon-neutral development, given that it's public land and TFLs, lack of social regeneration, can't see any other benefits, lack of certainty and clarity in terms of affordable workspace provision. And now I ask the councillors when it's time for Q&A to ask me. Thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you very much. And if I can now invite Valerie Cox. Valerie, you have 1 minute. You may start now.
Thank you. My flat is opposite the proposed development by less than 8 metres. Policy P12 of the Southwark Plan states that development must provide adequate daylight, sunlight and outlook for existing occupiers. The daylight report submitted by the applicant establishes that the proposals do not comply with policy P12. My living room and bedroom face the application site and will experience light reductions of 65%. The retained light levels will be between 10 to 12%, leaving both rooms very poorly lit, undesirable spaces. Your officers confirm in their report that the proposal would result in substantial adverse daylight and sunlight impacts to a number of nearby residential windows, which should be accorded some weight when determining the application. Your officer set out that the harms caused of losses exceed 20%. My flat suffers losses of 65%. Based on technical findings by the applicant, I strongly urge the committee to refuse this application. I have to live here for the rest of my life and am of the opinion that the detrimental impact on neighbouring properties far outweighs any benefits. Thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very good. Just set up my technology. Now, committee members. I see Councillor Morell. Are there other committee members who wish to ask the objectors questions? Can you indicate now, please? Put your digital hand. The other committee members? In that case, Councillor Morell, go ahead. Ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question for Amir. Unfortunately, my writing is not as quick as you're speaking, so I'm wondering if you want to just clarify some of the points you were making during your presentation.
Chair, can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
I would just one point I just wanted to make. Sorry, I am a foster carer, so I'm picking up my foster child. So if you hear any background noise, that's what that is. But
it's absolutely fine.
just to go over the point. So the first one was about lack of quality consultation. Looking through the statement of community involvement, the consultation list. And if you refer to, I don't know, you may not have received it, but our representations both last week and today, what you find is a lot of the residents north of the viaduct have not been consulted. They're not on the consultation list, and neither are they on the statement of community involvement. If you look at the map, it doesn't outline them in the map. And if you look at the pictures, none of the residents that I'm talking about, whether they be the BAME residents or elderly protected, the elderly residents, they're not there. So I believe that because of that failure, they haven't been consulted and their impact hasn't been taken into consideration. That was the point number one. The other point was about so generally affordable homes. We had a proposal back in 2017, 2018, and we had discussions with the applicant, and we also had discussions with senior planning officers and cabinet members about delivering more than what is currently proposed. And unfortunately, that commitment that was given has now been disregarded. And we get the fact that it's a commercial site and that 50% office space needs to be delivered, but more genuinely affordable homes could be delivered is our point. The other points are really about daylight and sunlight, and the fact that some of the residents which live north of the viaduct have not been included in that impact statement. The fact that the issues around retail, and I think one of the committee members raised issues around Red Cross Way, and that was the point about highway safety and how, because of the narrowness of the road, how I can't see how servicing and all those things that would come down, and potentially more people would be able to use that route, whilst that is a route that is used by children and parents to go to school. Also, I mentioned carbon neutral. This development is not carbon neutral, and it's on public land. It's owned by TfL, and I don't see why it shouldn't be. The other big point is around social regeneration. It doesn't. It's not in accordance with the social regeneration policies of the new Southwark plan, in the sense that if you, on balance, weigh out the positives, the jobs, yes, there'll be a couple thousand jobs in there, but most of the time what we find is those jobs are not given to Southwark residents or to even local residents. The fact that the permeable routes could possibly be cluttered with chairs and tables, so that they don't really become permeable routes, or the bit that the low line, the opening of the low line, that could also have tables and chairs. The affordable workspace is at 70% discount. Which there is no clear clarification. I don't know which small businesses and organisations the applicant has in mind, or the council has in mind, to fit in there. And there's a few other points. I don't know if you want me to go through all of them, but there's quite a lot, and I've put it into my representation. I'm happy to first go, if anyone wants to go through those, and then speak about others, if that's all right.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Morell, are you happy with the response?
No, I'm fine working through that. Some of those we can ask the officers and the applicant when they come up to clarify some of those points, but I'll let another member ask a few more if you like.
Yes, you're so kind. Councillor Morris, I see your digital hand up still. If it's Councillor Morris.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Valerie Cox, actually. Did you say that the Woods Yard building is 8 metres from your property? Is that what you've measured it as, or know it to be?
Valerie Cox?
Are you still there, Valerie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, we can.
Yes.
We can.
Oh, lovely, thank you. So, yes, so I live in Triangle Court on Red Cross Way, and it's 7.8 metres away from the proposed development. And it has been measured, sorry, yes.
Right.
That's very helpful,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you may wish to pose that question to the applicant and officers later on, Councillor Boyce. Now then, are there other members who wish to ask the objectors question? If not, I want to thank the objectors for your presentation, and thank you for responding questions from the committee. If I may now move on to the applicants or applicant agents. Let's see now. First of all, are they present? I've got Tom Edgley and Anderson Scott.
Yes, President Chair, Scott Anderson speaking.
You have Tom Edgley as well speaking.
Very good. How do you wish to do this then? Are you going to split the time between you both, or who's your speaker in short?
Yeah, if it would be acceptable, that we'll split the time between ourselves. I'm Tom Edgley. I represent UNI, and I'm here with Scott Anderson, who's our joint applicant and a landowner representing TfL.
Okay, can I ask Scott to introduce himself? Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Scott Anderson of TfL. As Tom said, I'm representing both TfL as landowner and TfL as joint venture developer in partnership with UNI.
I understand you, and I note that you have other colleagues who are able to answer substitute questions members may put to you. And I've got a long list of names here. I won't read them all out, but if they're necessary, I'll introduce them to the committee. So I'm sure you both are aware of the usual routine here. You'll be given 3 minutes to make your presentations, and I will indicate at 30 seconds that you have 30 seconds to remain on your presentation. So Tom, when you're ready, you may begin your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. As we've developed our plans, we've discovered a place rich in history and local folklore. From the outset, we've been determined to secure the future of Crossbones Graveyard, working closely with Bankside Open Spaces Trust, the Friends of Crossbones and Crossbones Forum on the design. We are very proud this application ensures not only is it preserved and protected, but enhanced so more Londoners can appreciate this garden of remembrance for the outcast dead. Southwark Street has, of course, been a place of thriving business and enterprise, including hot warehouse and trading rooms which once stood on this site. Our plans would contribute £173 million gross value to the local economy every year and create space for over 1,800 new jobs. We'll create versatile offices here, primary goal of the borough's site allocation, including 10% affordable workspace and market stalls, retail spaces, bars and cafes and restaurants. The local community has also communicated their aspiration that Borough remains a great place to live, not just a place to work or visit. Our plans include 36 new homes, 50% of which will be genuinely affordable, including 12 for social rent and 4 for London living rent. Homes will be completely tenure blind, sharing all communal space, something we know members are rightly insistent upon. We recognise that substantial change in any urban context is difficult. Our proposal before you designed with vision and great care. We have listened and consulted carefully over a long time with the council and our community. This scheme has evolved because we have listened and responded to many voices. I have no doubt these proposals will deliver exceptional regeneration and provide a lasting legacy for Borough, Southwark and London. Thank you.
Landmark Court is a unique opportunity to transform this missing piece of Southwark Street. This was one of the first sites TfL brought forward following the election of the current Mayor of London, with UNI chosen as our partner alongside local architects, Allies and Morrison. Through more than 2 years of detailed consultation, our plans have evolved and approved. What members are deciding on is a truly mixed-use development, which will protect and enhance the significant piece of the city and be accessible and welcoming to all. This scheme is an exemplar for our Healthy Streets approach. We will reconnect to the patchwork of historic streets and lanes of the neighbourhood, create a new part of the Low Line and a new public square in Woods Yard. The regeneration of this site will help support the local economy, its residents, and TfL's commitments to London's transport infrastructure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and thank you both for keeping within your allocated time. Thank you very much. I see here there's a number of colleagues who wish to ask questions, and I'll take in this order. First of all, Councillor Adele Morris, followed by Councillor Damien O'Brien, followed by Councillor Catherine Rose. So, Adele Morris, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Chair. And this can go to either of the presenters. You know, you've talked about sort of lengthy consultation with the council and with the community and with people with a local interest. But obviously, the main objections that have been coming in consistently, actually, and particularly more recently, are from the community. So the community clearly aren't happy with what some sections of the community, I should add, are clearly not happy with what is being proposed. So I just wondered if you wanted to, and the question has been asked, what benefits are there for the immediate community, local community? And I wonder if you could just elaborate on how you feel your scheme, A, has responded to the community, and B, how it benefits local residents specifically.
Thank you. May I answer, Chair?
Yes, of course.
We have carried out extensive consultation. We hosted 3-day events in July of 2018 and November 18 with a follow-up consultation in February of 2019 before we submitted. We continue to consult with local interest groups and with locals throughout the period prior to our application and following with a co-design of Crossbones Graveyard with BOSS and the Friends of Crossbones. And we've enjoyed working with them immensely, and we've had great feedback from people. We've amended our designs throughout the process. We reduced the extent and the height of the buildings facing Southwark Street from 12 stories at one stage to 9 stories as it is now, following consultation. We've changed some of the residential around to ensure that we have high quality amenity and units for the residential proposed. And we've amended our scheme to ensure that we've reduced the impacts to surrounding occupiers as much as we can do. In addition, the benefit for the surrounding community, we hope, are great. We're putting back permeability into the site. It's been effectively closed for the last 30 years, allowing a car-free, effectively, development where it's pedestrian friendly for people to escape from the noise and the busyness of streets surrounding this area. There's small retail spaces which we're putting into the heart of the development, which hopefully will support the local economy as much as the wider economy of London. We've got 10% affordable workspace, which is hitting the borough's emerging policy for workspace, which will provide jobs and opportunities for a small local enterprise. And we hope that ultimately this will become a place that is forgotten about as a development, but somewhere that's part of borough. And we're quite proud of our designs. We think that in future it will be a place where everyone, not just a few who are presenting here today, will be very proud of. And I would add that the majority of the people that we've spoken to, we've massively enjoyed working with. We've had good responses, and we've had positive responses from many people. And I hope we've also got supporters of ourselves here today, which will speak probably further about our interactions with them.
Thank you very much for that response. If I may then go on to Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the elephant in the room and the theme that's run through most of the objections is the lack of affordable housing. So I give you the opportunity now to explain to the audience as to why the residential offering is, from their perspective, quite meagre. Okay.
Can I, before we go to this question, I know it's got to keep coming up, so I'm going to permit it once, because I think the officers have explained, both in policy terms, why the application has been put in this current format. So I don't want this to be a circular conversation. So I'm clear about the policy terms, and it's set out in the report, and I could refer you to the relevant paragraphs in the report. So I'm pretty clear as to why it is what it is. But I'd invite the presenters to respond to that question. But this will be the last question on that particular issue. So please go ahead, either Tom or Anderson. Who would go first?
I'm happy to respond to this Chair.
Okay.
Again, we've worked with the council and council officers to ensure that we get the right balance of uses on this site. We've also worked hard with them to ensure we optimise the number of affordable homes that we can produce. We're very proud to be shown that we're delivering 50% affordable houses in this proposal. Of course, it's not the only benefits that we provide for on the site, and the capital and the ongoing support that we're running across is one part we're doing in addition to that. So we think the overall package of benefits we're providing is strong, and it will ultimately be something that will be supported by your members.
Thank you for your response. In that case, then I'll move on to Councillor Catherine Rose.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question in relation to the housing, but from a different angle, but I won't ask that. I would like offer the opportunity for the either TfL or you and I to come back to Valerie Cox's comments about her proximity and the particular impact on Triangle Court, if they wish to.
Thank you. I do have a representation here with us if you want to ask specific questions about the technical response to it. But from my point of view, we've worked hard to minimise all impact to the surrounding neighbours. The challenge of this site is that it is in a very urban, complex location, and there are some impacts that do get made to surrounding occupiers. As we said, we've tried to minimise this to the most we possibly can do, and we've engaged with our neighbours to ensure that we try and reflect their concerns and come up with something that's appropriate and supported.
Mm-hmm. It would be useful if you said you have a specialist present who might further expand on your answer. Although I do note the site is in a very constrained area, but if only to satisfy the observation made by the objector that there was expression of concern. So notwithstanding your response, it'd be useful if there are other colleagues who could further expand upon what you've just said.
Yeah, I have my colleague Harry from Gordon Ingram Associates that can speak to this point in greater detail if
Very good.
requested.
Thank you, Harry. Yes.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can. Could you introduce yourself there, Harry, please?
Yeah, I'm Harry Hummerstone Pope. I'm a senior surveyor at GIA. I've advised on the daylight and sunlight matters and the external impacts on surrounding residential neighbours. In short, there are two rooms, as the resident has said, that are impacted. That is by reference to really only one assessment. So there's more than one daylight assessment. The first one looks at the amount of sky visibility at a window face, and the second considers the amount of daylight within a room. So the second test is better because it actually gives you an idea of the quality of daylight to the whole area of a room. So by reference to that, which is the no skyline assessment, although there are VSC reductions, so the amount of visibility at your window face that are significant, when you actually look at the quality of daylight to the room in terms of the impact, although there will be significant reductions in terms of percentage, the area of the rooms will still receive, for both rooms, will still receive sky visibility. So 65%, or rather at least 65% of the area in the proposed condition. Now, just to confirm, when we're considering daylight impact, if a room continues to receive 50% to its area, we would deem that to be more than satisfactory. These rooms will continue to enjoy more than 65%. So although the percentage reductions could be considered significant, the retained position is completely satisfactory. And it's even more, the retained levels will be higher than what we're used to seeing in central London, especially in this area. Those are still, even in the proposed condition, those levels are still extremely high for the area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your response. Thank you. If I may now move on to Councillor Darren Morris. Indeed, Darren Morell. Where are you?
Yeah.
Councillor Morell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just want to go on to one of the objectors and what they were asking about. I see that you're doing a carbon offset, so you're not carbon neutral. Considering TfL and you want to be seen to be the most carbon, authority in the world, why couldn't you reach to carbon neutral on this particular development?
Who wishes to respond to that question?
Chair, I may do. We are carbon net carbon neutral, as you mentioned. We worked hard to ensure that this is a sustainable development as we possibly been able to. We have the fully electric supply of heating and power with air source heat pumps and designed in a manner that requires as little power as possible. This site is not without its challenges. It's hugely complex, but this building will be an exemplar in sustainability and will continue to make improvements as we continue our design work with it.
All right, thank you very much. I see Darren Morris. Is your hand gone up again, or?
Yes, it has,
Morris?
Chair. It has, Chair. Yes. So I just wanted to return.
Forgive me, Adele. Can I ask the other members your digital hand? If they could all go down now, I think you've all spoken. Just make my life easier, so I know who wants to go next. if you've spoken already, if you just take down your digital hands. As Councillor O'Brien, you still want to ask another question, I take it. Is that right?
I'll take it
afterwards.
If that's okay.
Thank you. In that case, Councillor Morris, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to revisit that the comment from Triangle Court residents about the closeness of the Woods Yard. Oh, is that what it's called? Apologies. Woods Yard building, you know, across the street. I appreciate it's a narrow street, but that site has been cleared for quite some considerable time. So was there not an opportunity to set that building further back from the, you know, to give more street space, because you know, we've got two very narrow pavements there and not a very wide road anyway. Was there not an opportunity for you to set that back further so that the impact was reduced?
If I may respond to that, Chair.
Of course, yes.
In consultation with planning officers and Southwark transport advisors, Alex, we have set the building back from its the present condition on the boundary with Red Cross Way, and we've widened the pavement there. So we have done exactly that in response to feedback and consultation that we've received.
Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chair. So could you just clarify now what the distance is between Triangle Court and your new building?
I don't have that in front of me, but I could ask the question of our architects who are available on the line as well. Perhaps they have that information.
All right. And who would that be?
Hello, it's Alex Raitt here, partner at Allies and Morrison.
Very good, thank you. You have the answers, do you?
I do, yes. The distance.
Go ahead. Yep.
The distance is, as Valerie Cox stated, it's 7.8 metres, but it is important to note that the extent of the overlap in plan is considerably less than that, about 6 metres. So the buildings at that pinch point where they face are 7.8 metres, but the overlap is only 6 metres of the length of the street.
Right, you. Thank you. Thank you for that response.
Apologies, Chair. I haven't understood I haven't understood that overlap comment just then. Could you repeat that, please? Because that's confusing.
Sorry to interrupt. Would it be Sorry to interrupt. Would it be helpful if I just put up the plan? I think that might just help clarify the relationship between the two buildings.
Thank you.
2 seconds.
Thank you, Patrick. We'll wait for it to go up.
So I think the point being made here is that although you can see that the building would be 8 metres from Triangle Point, it would only be so for a 6 metre stretch. There is this sort of pinch point where the two buildings are at that proximity. But then, of course, you then have the openness of Woodyard and Crossbones beyond, and it's onto that space that the vast majority of the Triangle Court properties would look.
Yeah,
that's helpful. Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks. I'll turn off the presentation now.
Thank you very much. And Councillor O'Brien, Damien O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. Can I direct the applicants to the affordable workspace calculations? I believe that you're offering 10% affordable, which should work out to 2,168 square meters, but you're actually only offering 1,533. And then you're also including toilet space, circulation space, lobby space, and basement plant area, which seems, I don't know how someone who's using...
All right, let's ask for clarification. Let's ask for clarification.
You could, yeah, do the headline
let's
number.
ask for clarification. Tom?
Yes, that's correct. In the same way as the rest of the commercial space is measured, including plant and core space, we're measuring the entirety of the affordable workspace. And we've been through that with the officers to ensure that that's the correct way of addressing it. and we're comfortable it is, because of course, if we looked at the commercial space, the non-affordable commercial space on a net basis, that number would be lower. Does that make sense?
You're still short 573 meters to make your 10%.
Sorry, may I just clarify? Just to be clear on the just to be clear on how we calculate affordable workspace. If you imagine it as almost as three parts, you've got the usable market rate office space, you've got your usable affordable floor space, and then there will be some shared facilities. That's almost a third part that they're all reliant on. And of course, of those shared facilities, 10% must be attributed to the affordable, the other 90% attributed to the market rate. And that's what the table, paragraph 126 of the committee report is setting out. So yes, indeed, some circulation and some other ancillary facilities are included within that calculation, because of course the affordable workspace is going to have certain facilities that it will need to rely on, but they represent 10% of the total. So it's this very, very clear division between market rate and affordable, including the shared and ancillary facilities.
No, I'm sorry, Petra, that's not correct. And if my calculator doesn't work, even if I include that, you're still short.
The calculations, which part are you looking at the table on? Pages 40 and 43.
Yeah.
So 1,533 square meters plus 2,156, plus 623 gives you 2,156. That's 10% of 21,680.
Well, it's not, but okay. All right.
Just rounded. Let them off a couple of square meters, yeah.
All righty.
Thank you.
So we're agreed on it. We're agreed, finally. That's okay. I thought it did. I even did that in my head, Damon. Couldn't believe that anyway. Anyway, okay. I believe those two digital hands I've dealt with. Are there further questions from committee members, particularly those who've not spoken at this point, who'd like to make contribution? Any further questions? If not, I will move on. But if in that case, I want to thank the presenters for their presentation and contribution to this meeting. But please be available. We might need to go back to you later on in our debate. If I now move forward to, are there supporters in the virtual room who live within 100 meters of the development site? Can I just check with the clerk?
Yes, Professor Lizzie Jackson has registered.
Professor Liz Jackson. Oh, indeed, I've got it now.
She's here.
Indeed. Oh, I've got it now. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if I may, do you mind if I call you Lizzie? Is that be all right? Professor, very much so. Anyway, if I may, you would have observed our meetings. We would ask each presenter to make a 3-minute presentation. I would ask you initially to introduce yourself. I'll then start the clock at 30 seconds remaining. I'll indicate there's 30 seconds remaining, and at the end of 3 minutes, I'll then ask you to stop your presentation. And if you're ready, you may introduce yourself. Go ahead.
I speak as a resident of over 20 years at Maidstone.
Forgive me, Lizzie. Could you introduce yourself to the committee, just for formality's sake?
Lizzie Jackson, Professor.
Thank you very much. You may begin your presentation now.
I'm speaking as a resident for over 20 years at Maidstone Buildings Mews on behalf of the residents in Wiltshire and Devon houses, which directly abut, literally, we're 6 inches away, the southern part of the development, Woods Yard. As adjacent neighbours, we've had very detailed and inclusive consultation with U&I and TfL from the beginning. We feel the developers have listened to the views of residents and worked collaboratively to develop this final scheme. They've held a number of meetings with the Maidstone Mews leaseholders over the past 2 years. They've addressed our concerns regarding overshadowing, traffic, noise, aspect security. and the final plan building heights appear not to be too overwhelming. We found the process a positive experience, not something that has often been the case with other development proposals in this area. In comparison with previous highly unsuitable plans for the site, this is by far the best, both in terms of scale, design, and mix of uses. You and I have a good history working on similar sensitive regeneration schemes, such as Deptford Market Yard, which won Best Heritage-led Project at the 2017 London Planning Awards. The approach taken with Landmark Court has mirrored this and their other successful schemes. We therefore feel the overall public benefits will outweigh the disruption that will inevitably come with the development. The proposals are well constructed and sympathetic to the patchwork of heritage buildings in the area and the neighbouring buildings. The historic fabric of the site has also been well considered, such as the Crossbones graveyards, and also quoting the ironwork bridges that used to transport hot bales between the warehouses of Maidstone buildings at the 3rd and 4th floor levels. This hopefully suggests that there is likely to be an investment in the quality of the fabric of the development to ensure something with character and perhaps longevity of even more than 50 years, as this is a conservation area. Increasing the permeability from Southwark Street to Red Cross Way will provide opportunities to enhance the public use. For example, the integration of ecologically friendly landscaping, seating, place space and cycle racks. This is all resident focused. In a post-COVID world, the provision of 9 market stalls will help and assist small businesses and further enhance
30 seconds.
The community feel. We feel that, in summary, the proposed scheme is the best we could have reasonably expected, and we're delighted we're being realistic and getting something we can live with. Therefore, we're giving it our wholehearted support.
Thank you very much indeed, Lizzie. Thank you very much indeed. I see that colleagues, that Councillor O'Brien is indicating he wishes to speak. Can I invite Councillor O'Brien to ask a question? Councillor O'Brien?
Sorry, Chair, I forgot to take my hand down. I didn't have a question ready. Sorry.
You did not. Right, okay. Is that the same for Councillor Morris?
No, Chair, I have got a quick question of Lizzie, if that's okay.
Of course.
Which is, there was an objection, apologies, I can't find it now, but there was actually an objection from somebody in, is it Wiltshire House that's on the back wall? Anyway, there was a, and I just wondered whether or not you now speak on behalf of all of the residents of Maidstone Building Mews, or whether or not it's whether you've spoken to neighbours and what percentage agree with you, and if there is still any dissenting voices.
We've discussed the scheme across there's a complicated freehold situation, but we've discussed the scheme in all our AGMs, and also the U&I and Transport for London came to our AGM for Southwark leaseholders and freeholders. And we've publicised these meetings quite widely in the Mews. Therefore, we feel we've discussed between ourselves what we think. If somebody has an objection, we're not. They haven't said it to us. We're not really aware of it.
Right here. Thank you for responding to that question. Are there other committee members who wishes to speak? If not, I would thank you, Lizzie, for your presentation. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. If I may now move on to the last contributor, ward councillor. I believe we have a ward councillor present. I believe so. Is it Councillor Noakes?
Yeah, Councillor Noakes. Okay.
There you are. I obviously don't need to go through with you the usual routine for your presentation, but I'll invite you to make your presentation, and you may now begin now.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Planning Committee members. I'd like to acknowledge firstly that there are some positives in this application. The engagement of the applicant, particularly you and I, the restoration of the one remaining historic hop warehouse at 15 Southwark Street, the recreation of some of the yards and lanes behind Borough High Street, and the protection of the low line. However, I'm going to ask members to reject this application on the grounds that the positives fail to outweigh the negatives and also fail to deliver on the ambitions articulated by the Mayor of London and the Council and the expectations of local residents. There are three reasons, I think, why the bar should be set high on this application. Firstly, because of the size and importance of this site in Borough. Secondly, because this is public land. And thirdly, because the majority of the site sits in the Borough High Street conservation area. My primary concern is the lack of ambition of this application and its failure to address the needs and aspirations of residents who live in Borough. The planning system, I regret to say, is consistently failing to deliver the priorities of local people. If it was, it would be delivering more housing and green space on this site. On planning grounds, though, my objections are as follows. This failure of this application to deliver a genuine mixed development. Yes, 50% has to be office, but this is delivering more like 70 to 80% office. It's only delivering 36 new homes, despite the Mayor's commitment, on a 0.7 hectare site, only 16 of which are affordable, when the previous commitment was for 100 new homes. Secondly, this does not guarantee the long-term future of Crossbones Graveyard, but only the short-term future via the 30-year lease. TfL should be giving a 299-year lease to match the rest of the site, and at the very least, a 70-year lease. The third reason is the excessive scale, height and massing of the office buildings on Southwark Street and into Red Cross Way, ranging from height from 5 to 9 stories. This is despite the applicant's own heritage statement, including the opening statement. The intended character of the planned street is evident. It is built to a controlled height of 4 stories plus an attic story on each side of the street. The consequence of the additional height, though, is to diminish and harm the significance and setting of other heritage assets in the area. And I point members to the opposition of Southwark's Conservation Area Advisory Group and Historic England, who even in their additional things said it was only a slight improvement on what we'd previously reviewed. And the fourth reason is the detrimental impact on the residential amenity of residents. It is recognised that there would be, in the report it states, there'd be a substantial impact on the daylight and sunlight enjoyed by some of the residential occupiers of the surrounding buildings, including Triangle Court, 34 Southwark Street, 11 Southwark Street, New Culverts Yard Block, Sussex and Wiltshire houses. Finally, the other concerns are the servicing, the white van servicing from Red Cross Way, the lack of greening in the 2 new public space squares, and concerns about the proposed class uses on the buildings on Red Cross Way. I would recommend enjoy the opportunity to add some conditions if members allow me.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll move the questions, but if I may, Councillor Noakes, just to clarify, an interesting series of observations. To what degree have you interacted with the developers particularly in the pre-app stage when forming and designing this application? What influence have you had with them?
I'm not aware, unfortunately, of being invited to any pre-application talks, Chair, but I have engaged through the consultation events that you and I and TfL have held, and that's why I made my comment about that I think the engagement has generally been good. What unfortunately is not good enough is the outcome, and I think we can do so much better on this site.
Then my second question to you, and I'll come back to the others in a moment. The policy requirement of 50% for affordable homes on public land has been met here. Why would you think differently for TfL versus any other public authority? 50% is what is a general policy statement, isn't it?
It is, Chair, but I think I would go back to my point. This is a 0.7 hectare site, and the original sort of aspirations, even of the Mayor of London and of our own council, has been to deliver more affordable housing in SE1. And to only be delivering 36 new homes, only 16 of which are affordable, only 12 of those socially rented, is a pretty poor delivery, I would suggest. And actually, we should be having a much more mixed development here. with a lot more housing as well as office, because it's housing and green space that the residents of SE1 want, not more office.
You agree, though, that it has met the 50% threshold.
Yes, it's met the letter of the law, but it lacks ambition, and I think we can do a lot better.
As you know, planning committees are concerned with policies, of course. Okay, I'll move over to Councillor Morell, who has a question for you. Councillor Morell?
Yes, thank you, Chair. You started to, and we haven't really touched on this through our conversation about the heritage impact on the surrounding buildings. I wondered if you want to go further into that, and just from your experience, how do you feel this would relate to the buildings around the area?
Thank you. So I think my main concern really relates to the heights of the buildings that are proposed on Southwark Street, ranging in height from I think it's 5 to 9 stories tall. As I said, the heritage statement makes it very clear that the character of Southwark Street is about 4-story buildings, not 5 to 9 story. And there's a bit of a giveaway in the heritage statement from the developer, which says the height of the proposed development is partly an expression of the floor space, the floor space required to deliver the public benefits of the scheme, i.e. they're delivering this because they're going so high to make this stack up economically, rather than because that's the desired, from a policy point of view and a conservation area point of view, the desired height. And I would also, as I say, refer you to Southwark's Conservation Area Appraisal Group and Historic England, who both objected and raised concerns around the height. And perhaps more importantly, though, I think, is the failure of this development to really secure Crossbones, the long-term future of Crossbones Graveyard. They're giving a 299-year lease to U&I for the rest of the site. At the very least, members should be demanding, I would suggest, or certainly asking strong questions of TfL to demand why that's not happening on Crossbones. Otherwise, we unfortunately leave the future of Crossbones Graveyard unsecured, I'm afraid, in the long term. And this is a moment when we can quite rightly secure that space for future generations. So I would ask members that at the very least they secure a 70-year lease on this site. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And can I also now move over to Councillor Adele Morris?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so David, I've got a couple of questions, if I may. You talked about you touched on the public benefits and how, the height is there in order to basically financially make the public benefits possible. And I just wondered if you thought there were any anything that was had been classified as public benefits that you wouldn't necessarily see as public benefits, and therefore as things that are necessary in order to counterbalance the height, etc., as it were, if you see what I mean. Do you understand what I mean?
I think so. So obviously the development is going to provide 2 public spaces. I think the problem with those 2 public spaces, they're basically the sort of public space you get around more London, which is obviously high quality, but it's basically concrete. It's not new green spaces. Obviously, I welcome the affordable workspace, but I think I personally would want less office on that site. I think that delivering more housing is not only what's needed, but actually I think it's what local people want. I don't think they want more office space. Obviously, I welcome the 30-year lease that has been secured by BOST, and I thank BOST for their work on that. But actually, we can do so much better than this, and in fact, we should do better than this. And if we fail to secure a longer lease than 30 years, I fear that in 30 years' time, the future of Crossbones will be up for grabs again. And we know that development can take place on Crossbones because in the 90s, of course, they put the unit for the Jubilee line in that location. So I think it's we know that the substation is what the word I was looking for. Sorry, the substation on part of the site. So I think we absolutely have to get that deal now from TfL.
Right, yeah. Well, I think we could deal with that in a few moments. Are there further questions to Councillor Noakes?
I had a second question, Chair, if I may.
Right, yeah. Yep, right here.
So I think you've made it quite clear that you don't particularly support this development in its current form, but I think you said that were we to approve it, there would be some conditions that you thought might make it more acceptable to yourself. I wondered if you wanted to talk through, obviously you've mentioned the Crossbones, but if there are any other things that you'd like us to consider.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. So I believe, and I think you picked up on this, I think we should take out on the two buildings on Red Cross Way. I think we should take out the West Building and Woods Yard. We should take out the A3 and A4 uses. I think we should restrict it just to A1, A2 and D2. And that's obviously to protect the residential amenity of the residents in Red Cross Way. I think members should also be pushing the applicant on the level of greening that's going to be delivered in the public spaces. At the moment, Woods Yard, I think, is going to deliver 2 new trees. That's the extent of greenery that's coming on that location. Obviously, I've mentioned the. I would also just point out on the Crossbones thing. Obviously, there's the request that the lease should be a minimum of 70 years, but there's also, I would draw members' attention to that at the end of the 30 years, the proposed funding comes to an end. So I would suggest that the condition or that Section 106 needs to make sure the proposed funding lasts for as long as Crossbones continue to have that lease, not just for the 30 years. I would like to think we could strengthen the archaeological conditions in conditions 5, 11, 12 and 13 to secure the findings that we might find. It's a very historic site, and at the moment the requirement is only for 1 heritage visit. I think we should be asking for more than 1 heritage visit. And my final suggestion is that we should change the condition on the rooftop terraces in the office buildings and the B1 buildings to take out Sundays and bank holidays and just restrict use to Monday to Saturday. At the moment it's 8 to 10. I personally would rather see it being 8 till 9 in the evening, but at least take out Sundays and bank holidays. I don't see why residents should be disturbed by office use for corporate events. Thank you.
All righty. Are there further questions for Councillor Noakes? In that case, Councillor Noakes, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Thank you. Although Councillor Noakes has raised a number of questions, and I just want to clarify from the report, and I note that the Crossbones is quite separate considerations, and I understood that there is a covenant that does not permit development on that grave site. Am I correct in saying that? I believe that's correct, what I've just said. There is a covenant that prevents development on the grave site ever in perpetuity. Could someone just confirm that's my understanding, if I'm correct? Yvonne, if she's nearby, or Martin?
I am here, Chair, yes. Yes, that is a suggestion that is part of the Section 106 agreement that would secure, the clause basically says that it can't be built upon, and it is retained as open space. I don't know if John Gorst wants to add anything to that.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, Chair, there isn't a property title covenant, which I think is what you were referring to. There is not a covenant on the title. So what's being offered is a covenant in the Section 106 agreement, and I think objectors have raised rightly that it is possible to vary a Section 106 agreement somewhere down the line, even though there's a covenant that it will remain as open space in perpetuity. I go back to what I was saying earlier in respect of the statutory protection, and whilst I acknowledge that there might have been a building put on there in the past in connection with the Jubilee line by TfL, the party who can actually enforce the Disused Burial Grounds Act legislation is actually Southwark Council. So it is within our own, it's under our own control. If any building did take place, it's Southwark Council who could enforce it under this 1884 legislation.
Thank you. So I'm just processing what you've said, and just to reassure those who are listening, to ensure that this site, for all intents and purposes, there's a even greater assurance that it will not be built on at any point in the future. Is there a suggestion, John, maybe the Section 106 agreement is being used, that if a variation was sought, that would have to come back to committee? What way can we strengthen the protection for that site? What would you recommend, John?
Well, I think the point that was made earlier about the designation in the in policy documentation, the suggestion is that it's other open space. It may well be an idea, bearing in mind all the objections that have been made, whether that could possibly be reviewed and the protection in policy documentation made a bit higher. The point that I made before, I just repeat, I don't see it as it's not a material planning consideration, so I don't see it's actually within the control of this planning committee, and there is specific statutory legislation which, for a site like this, which has got a remarkable history, a quite fascinating history. It is well chronicled that this is a disused burial ground. I think it's in any number of places you can see reference to that, and the fact that it's unconsecrated, it's not consecrated, that makes no difference. The fact that a building in the past has been put on there, that makes no difference. So I think there is wide protection under legislation. We can also, because the applicants offered it, we can also put these provisions in the Section 106 agreement. It's difficult to think that if that ever came to be varied, what the circumstances would be for varying it, because it's still a disused burial ground. It will be for time immemorial. But as I say, I think the policy reference, the policy criteria, that possibly could be looked at again by planning policy officers.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And lastly, the question of the duration, up to 30 years with 5-year reviews. It suggested that it should be for an extended period, up to 60 or 70 years. Do you have an opinion on those comments?
Well, it is up to negotiation between the applicant and Boston and the other groups. I think the difficulty is that 30 years is quite a long time, and it may well be the applicants thinking, well, will BOSS be the appropriate body in 30 years from now? I think if we were going to sort of look at it differently, if it was a lease to the council, then possibly a much longer period might be appropriate. But it's probably, I'm not sure the applicant would say this, but I would imagine that they'd be thinking it's a little difficult for us to give a much longer period if we don't know where BOSS are going to be in that length of time.
Right. Okay. All righty. Well, we've explored it. I think we've explored that one. Unless Yvonne wants to make any comment, I know we've discussed this previously. But if not, I don't think we can go. I don't think we can go any further on that particular point. As regards the agricultural conditions, there'll be one heritage visit. I thought that was an interesting point, and I just want to explore that particular point made by Councillor Noakes. Is there a justification for increased visits, and what justification would there be, I suppose, is the question. Okay, I don't know, Martin or others want to make any comments on that at all.
I think actually our archaeologist, Chris Constable, may be present at the meeting. And he may be able to advise if he considers that to be necessary. And one other point was that there would be some archaeological supervision of the landscaping works in Crossbones, which I captured in my introduction, but which actually isn't in any of the reports or addenda. But Chris can probably speak on this point much better than I can.
Okay. Hello. Yeah, part of the reason condition 12 covers the sort of public engagement that has been questioned. The archaeological works are looking to start relatively soon. So we have the issue of safety in regard to COVID-19 for the archaeologists on site as well as the visiting public. This has somewhat driven our approach to be rather different. The works we're proposing, and as detailed in the condition, are an interpretive hoarding on the site. I've been discussing this with the Museum of London's archaeologist already. We'll be looking to place the site within Roman Southwark. A lot of archaeological work's already been done on the site. In the early 1980s, a Roman mansio was excavated towards the eastern side, sort of behind the retained hop building fronting onto Southwark Street. A mansio is a Roman hotel. It's used for the officials travelling around the empire to stay in as they move between different settlements. So we know a lot about the site already. We know a lot about its Roman context, and the hoarding decoration, interest and viewing windows to the archaeology for people walking past will provide a lot of public interest. In the condition, we've kind of named an event. Basically, we're moving what would be potentially a relatively restricted site visit. Again, I know people always want to see the archaeology on sites, but I think on balance, we're having to do something slightly differently here. So we're looking to generate a programme of public engagement online. So this will be through a variety of mechanisms such as blogs, videos, photographs and other information that we hope to be displayed and circulated. The Museum of London, who are the Museum of London Archaeology Services, who are the archaeologists being employed by the developer at the moment, have a very good track record in achieving this for the Walbrook excavations in the city. If people are interested in having a look, there's the Walbrook Discovery Programme online. This is a whole sequence of blog entries, some Facebook material, which I have to admit I don't really understand that well myself, Twitter and other sort of online events detailing what's found on the site. I'd also draw your attention to condition 64, which details the delivery of the archaeological report. And again, we've been in discussion with the applicant's archaeologist and the applicant about this. Part of the work we've agreed to secure is what's referred to as a popular publication. Obviously, this is an archaeological publication, so the extent to which it's popular is kind of here or there. This is a more informed publication for the general public. Our discussions, we're looking at a book that's sort of approximately A5 in size, about 80 pages long, and we're looking for it to place the site in context within Roman and later Southwark on the site. We await details of exactly what's going to go into it when the archaeological work has been finished, as it's a bit, we're a bit early now, as only some work's been done on site, but we know from the archaeological evaluation that's been completed and the archaeological work done in the 1980s that we're going to get some very interesting bits and pieces turning up. And hopefully this book will help educate people about the development of North Southwark, and specifically the really strange thing that no one ever really seems to get their head around is originally, of course, that North Southwark was a series of islands that sort of spread down to Borough High Street Tube Station. There's bridges, roads, crossings, water management, a whole load of really fascinating features that we'll be able to draw out in a more popular publication and just make more available to the general public. And hopefully we can get a copy in every one of the borough's libraries and the area as well.
Right here. I'm reminded of my old history teacher. Anyway, never mind. Thank you for your. Oh, it was absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I got an A in history. You see, there you are. Thank you very much. That was excellent. And therefore, I believe we've now covered that aspect of local query, which Councillor Noakes has reflected, and thank you for that comprehensive response. And of course, the last area that was reflected is the suitability of this development in the context of its immediate surrounding, its architectural surrounding, and the height. And I visited the site, and it is a question that arose at the time, and I'm conscious it's opposite the old Hop Exchange. But who would wish to make comment about the height and the architectural features that this building will promote once it's erected? Who would wish to make comment?
Sorry, Martin.
I can.
Martin, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, could I just say though, Martin, before you start, I think Council Notes raised a specific point about historic England, and I was just reminding myself of their updated response. So I was just going to read out just one short sentence, which comes from their most recent response to the current proposals that you have before you, where they say, although the proposed buildings that fall into the Borough High Street Conservation Area would be significantly taller than the prevailing 4 to 5 story scale, we continue to support their design and proportions, which we consider respond successfully to the commercial warehouse character found in this part of the conservation area. So their main outstanding concern was about making sure that the restoration of 15 Southwark Street happened in a timely manner. But I would take that paragraph to mean that they were comfortable with the height in relation to the conservation area. So Martin.
Thank you. Thank you. Here you are.
Yeah, that's exactly the case, and also of course bear in mind that the height of the complex has been reduced during the course of the application. So they are happy now, I would suggest, whereas they weren't before. But yeah, just to go through it, I think building by building, and one of the interesting things to reflect on actually is that the conservation area hasn't always been as it was, as it is now. The building that stood in the Gap site was a very, very large warehouse building. It was at least as large as the Southwark Street building that is now proposed, or about the same size. And it did represent a change in character. It stood out as being bigger than the neighbours, but that's an historical thing that the scheme reflects. The Hop Exchange opposite was at one time, I think, 2 stories higher as well, which is quite an interesting thing to reflect upon. Nevertheless, the building it does step up, but it does so carefully, and you'll see the reference in the report to the effect on various views. And we certainly believe that the story off actually does make a big difference to the kind of silhouette that you get of the buildings, which, given the oblique views that you mainly get, is what counts as much as anything else. So we are, as officers, we are actually very, very comfortable with the heights that we've got at the moment. And to go a little further than that, if you can, very often we say that there is some harm caused by the development, but it has to be weighed against the public benefits, therefore accept the harm. In this case, we're saying there isn't really any. In fact, the infilling of the Gap site by this carefully designed development is actually an improvement. We will go as far as that to say that. I think that's as much as I've got to say at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In that case, thank you very much.
Could I ask Martin a question?
Chair? Yes, of course. So,
right.
Yes,
just
of course. Yes.
Specifically on that.
Okay, please. Yes.
Well, actually, it's on 15 Southwark Street. So I'm looking at the picture on the members pack on page 9 of a sort of what I call the generic Southwark grey extension, which. Are you satisfied that that is within the spirit and character of the surrounding area? Because it looks to me like it's just the same grey top extension that we've got all over Southwark, and in reality they never usually look that good. I just wondered if you had any particular views.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the members back at the moment, I'm afraid, but I think you're talking about the slightly set back extension on top of the Southwark Street building, which is adjacent to number 15. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe she is.
Yes, no, it is number 15.
Yeah,
it is number 15. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's adjacent to, but it doesn't matter. You're talking about the main the first lower building, new lower building.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about number 15. I'm talking about the grey bit that's stuck on top of number 15 of the unlisted heritage asset at number 15.
Okay, is it possible to bring that up on the?
Yes, I think. Sorry, I think Councillor Morris is referring to the roof remodelling of the existing 15 Southwark Street building. Bear with me a second. I just need to do this screen sharing thing.
It is helpful.
I think it might be easier.
Thank you, Patrick.
Sorry, it just takes a little while.
It does take a little while. Yeah.
The elevation on slide 9.
Yes, there we are. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Not yet.
It's that is. I mean, it is likely that it might have had a roof like that or vaguely like that. It's a modern day interpretation of a of what would have been a mansard roof. So there's no particular objections to that. You can see the window patterns follow that of the windows below. You can see that it's from the shadows that it's slightly canted back in the manner of a mansard roof, which is not an untraditional form. It's a modern day interpretation of a traditional form and not inappropriate.
Thank you. If I may, I'll pause there. Thank you all of this for your contribution. Yep, thank you for that. And if I may then, Councillor Morris, I'm going to move on now, and just so that we will get away in reasonable time. Can I, before I go any further, just start a discussion on the evidence that we've seen thus far? And if I may start with Councillor Hargrove, not heard from you yet. If you could maybe give us a view of what you've seen, general opinions, etc.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've had a lot of information today, a great deal of information and lots of different angles on this. And my perspective of the overall development is I personally think it's beneficial in terms of providing affordable housing, which is policy compliant. I think it's beneficial in terms of job opportunities for people and local people. I'm sure we'll be able to make the best of those opportunities. I think it's good in terms of opening up the site for permeability in that area. It's a great area for walking in and lots of cultural interest, and I think that this application reflects that. And so whilst no application is perfect and certainly very, very difficult within a constrained site, very keen to listen to what colleagues have to say, but I'm minded to support this application.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hargrove. Councillor O'Brien, can I just take your comments, please?
Sure. I pretty much agree with Barry. I think mistakes have been made. I think the Mayor's office coming out with that 120 number didn't help. And it's caused some angst amongst the community who feel that while there's probably nothing wrong with this application, it could be a lot better. And I think that's unfortunate. I think we need to look at policy. We need to look at, what would the inspectorate say if we were to refuse it? On what basis would we do that? And I'm really sitting on the fence, but I'm probably minded to approve it.
Very good, thank you very much. Councillor Adele Morris, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I didn't get to ask my question that I was promised I could come back to about the Healthy Streets initiative, which was mentioned, and if we were to approve this in its current form, how we could then make a street which is used for servicing into a healthy street. So if I could get that question answered first, I would be grateful. Thank you, Chair. And then I'll give you my comments, thoughts.
There's a trade, huh? I'm happy to trade. I'm happy to trade. Who'd like to respond to that question? Alex, yes. Is it Alex is going to be responding? How is this going to be a healthy...
You're on mute, Alex.
Ah, is he speaking? I can't see him. Oh, there you are.
If Alex is unable to answer, I can answer.
I think he's here now.
Are you here, Alex?
Thanks, Chair. The healthy street that we're looking at is to connect the two sides of Red Cross Way together in terms of highway safety. That might include a former crossing across Southwark Street, which the developers agreed to contribute into to complement the refuge that we're asking for. And on top of that, on Red Cross Way, because of the increased vehicular activities consequential to this development, we've asked for raised table to be put across Red Cross Way, and then for the developer to widen the footway to contain more pedestrians on the footway. So with all those schemes combined together, we feel the highway safety implication of this development is already being solved by the proposals.
All righty, thank you, Alex. Councillor Morris. Oh, have we lost you?
No, I don't think so. I'm here.
Oh, you're there.
I'm here.
Right.
I've just taken my video off because it seems to interfere. Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure about the appropriateness. I think
your comment anyway. Have we lost her? Councillor Morris? At that time of day, I suppose. Councillor Morris? Okay.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yes. Great.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yes. So do you want my comments? What my thoughts now on the development?
Yes.
So
yes.
There has been a lot of consultation, and I appreciate that the scheme has been tweaked and amended along the way. It is in our commercial district, so it is appropriate to have commercial here. I think it is regrettable, though, that the impacts on the local residents, particularly in Red Cross Way and in 11 Southwark Street, which hasn't been mentioned, the impact that it will have on them. I think, for those people, I can't see that they can see the benefits of the scheme. They may get a job in the development, but quite frankly, they may not. They may all be quite happily employed elsewhere and not need a job in the current development. So I think it's always difficult to balance it out. I think I personally am not very happy with the impacts. I think it could have been a smaller scheme. I think there's all sorts of reasons why I think it's just too dense for the space. If it is approved, as I suspect many of my colleagues may vote in favour of it, in which case I would have some very specific requests to make. And they're particularly around the use classes. So that the restaurant, which doesn't have to be a restaurant, but the unit that is on the corner at Red Cross Way, which opens out into Woods Yard, is it called? I would like that not to be a restaurant, because I think the impact on those residents is that people will come out of those doors. There will undoubtedly be people who they'll put tables and chairs out there, and it will become a nuisance. We have in the Borough and Bankside area, we have an alcohol saturation zone, which has been in place for a number of years now, because we have such a proliferation of restaurants and bars that it affects the people who live in the area. And I know licensing is separate, but the reasons...
Sorry, Councillor, forgive me, Councillor, I'm just... sorry. Are you proposing a resolution? to withdraw that youth class, or just so I'm clear?
Yeah, I would like some further consideration to be given to the youth classes, actually.
No, forgive me, Councillor. Forgive me, Councillor.
Yep.
We're now at the stage with our meeting, because these are questions which were dealt with earlier on. If you have a proposal,
yes,
please put your proposal forward.
Yes.
I did need to put your proposal.
Yes. What for whether or not to support the scheme, or whether or not?
No, the youth class.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. For the youth classes, I think it shouldn't be an A3 use for that particular retail unit which is on the corner.
I've got that, if I may think, Councillor. So I've got that as a proposal. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Is there a seconder? There's not a seconder, Councillor Morris. Can I ask for Councillor Rose? Are you seconding the proposal?
I can second. Sorry, I couldn't find my button quick enough.
Councillor O'Brien seconding. In that case, and I'd like to deal with that. And just before I go to the vote on this one, just to clarify with Patrick, who I can't see anymore, but never mind. And can I ask you just to bring that diagram up on our screen, just to make sure there's absolutely no misunderstanding.
About which unit we're talking about.
Exactly. I want to make sure there's no misunderstanding.
Yeah. Bear with me 1 second. So, can you see the plan?
It takes longer on my screen. Oh, it's
sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
So I think we're referring to this commercial unit that's fronting onto Red Cross Way and Wood Yard.
Oh.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. So it's a proposal that's been proposed by Councillor Morris and seconded by Councillor O'Brien. That a proposal to change the class use, and can I just confirm from to what are you proposing to change it to?
I think just not to be an A3. The slight difficulty is I'm conscious that an A1 could, of course, be a cafe, because all of our Starbucks, Cafe Nero, and all of those are A1.
We're aware of that. I did your quite specific proposal.
Yes, please. It is a quite specific proposal. It's in order to protect the amenity of the residents, not to have an A3 or an A4. Actually, sorry, not an A3.
What is your proposal, Councillor?
A1.
I really do need it now.
A1.
A1.
Or D, A1. Or D plus, or. Sorry, people are shaking their heads. I'm not quite sure why people are shaking their heads.
Yeah, I think I wanted to take the proposal if you had thought it through at this point, so that we can make clear decisions. Because I'm now seeking to put forward the main motion. So, but
why can't it just exclude that use class? Well, A3 and A4 actually. Why can't it just exclude those and be anything else?
Can I now just double check with Councillor O'Brien? Are you supportive of what's been said by Councillor Morris as a proposal?
Yes. If that's procedurally doable, I like that idea.
Very good. Can I just clarify to make sure legal officers or planning officers that from a procedural point of view, there is no problem here?
No, I don't think. I think if I've understood correctly, you're looking for a condition that would that essentially would restrict the use of this commercial unit to A1, A2 or D2, and therefore not A3 and A4. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's correct. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Very
good. I'm happy with that. So can I ask for those who are in support of the, in fact, let me do the roll call, should I, just to make it official, otherwise I know you'll leave it up to me. So can I invite Councillor Barry Hargrove to indicate, are you for the proposed resolution, against, or wish to abstain?
We're talking about the amendment, right?
That's right.
We're just voting on the amendment right now, yeah?
Yes, just the amendment.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. Councillor Darren Morell? For, against, abstain the amendment as proposed by Councillors Morris and O'Brien.
Yeah, I abstain as well.
Councillor Morris, I assume you are support of your own resolution?
Yes, support.
Thank you. Councillor Jane McAsh, can you indicate if you are for, against or wish to abstain on the resolution?
So my connection's cut out a couple of times. Can I just check whether the applicants have commented on whether the application would be able to go forward on such a condition? Have they said so? Sorry, I appreciate
I appreciate that. That's always a useful question to ask. I've noticed that the applicant, neither one, have indicated that they are averse to the proposal. Am I to assume that?
Sorry, Tom Edgley, the applicant, raised his hand.
Yeah, Tom.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to make the point that we have consulted quite extensively with the locals community around the uses of that ground floor space facing Woodyard, and in particular our conversations with Boston, the front of Crossbones, were keen to ensure that there was some form of passive overlooking of the graveyard, the southern elements of that, partly to do with improving the safety of those people that use that space, and also the wardens that are going to patrol that space in years to come. There was a conversation that I can recall, which was to support having a cafe use in that space. It isn't something that we would want to create disturbance or antisocial behaviour neighbours in any event, because we want to make sure that our development maintains its place in borough and is positive. And of course, any licensing that we would request will be dealt with from a licensing authority as well. So we definitely commit to ensuring that we continue our conversations with the council to ensure that unit doesn't create any antisocial concerns. But it would be our preference to maintain flexibility around that unit at this present time, especially with the changes in the wider world, COVID-19, and I suppose, frankly, we don't know how the world's going to look, but we would like to maintain flexibility to ensure that that space is used for the future and not left empty.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Tom. We'll continue with the roll call. Councillor McAsh. Now, if you...
Happy to support the amendment.
Okay, fair enough. In that case, if I may move forward, Councillor Damien O'Brien, I assume you are for. Yeah. Very good. Councillor Catherine Rose, for, against, or abstain
on the basis that
amendment.
On the basis that the amendment doesn't actually prohibit a cafe, then I am in favour of the amendment to reflect local concerns.
I believe it would prohibit a cafe. I believe it would.
No, cafe's A1. Cafe's A1, is it not? Is it? Can somebody confirm?
I think A1 might be news agents, isn't it?
Well, sorry, Chair. A1 is generally defined as retail, but most case law would suggest that cafes, so Starbucks, Costas, or whatever, are usually classified as A1. It depends on depends whether they are predominantly used for seating or buying food to take away and with you. Carrying out food.
Right. So it would prevent it in that case. Okay, by Councillor Rose.
In that case, I'm for the amendment.
Okay, thank you. And the only person who's not voted is myself, and I am against the amendment. So the amendment in its current form is carried. I think that's right, Gerald.
Hold on, Chair, 1 second. I've got 2 abstain, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 2 abstains, and 4 and 1 against. Yep, so that's carried. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just for the record, no misunderstanding. Thank you very much. In that case, then, if I may, then I will now go forward with the main resolution.
Chair, Chair, I had a couple more points that I wanted to raise that are in relation to conditions and related particularly to the addendum that was sent out, plus something that Councillor Noakes raised about the terraces on the office and whether or not their hours could be restricted. Sorry, we've had no other opportunity to discuss this.
Yeah, we did. But I accept that, don't you worry. I accept that. And can I ask you then just to put your point forward?
Thank you. So on the addendum that we got with all the conditions, the number 31, the delivery and servicing management plan, doesn't mention anything about hours. There's no restriction on that part about hours. It got further down in 42, there is a paragraph about the office servicing hours, but there isn't any for that other part. So it suggests that it's only the office hours that are restricted. The office servicing hours that are restricted, and it would be good if all the hours were, if the hours for all of the retail commercial were restricted, if that's possible.
Chair, I'm sorry, I've just had a message from Councillor Morell. He's been disconnected, so if we can have a short recess until we can reconnect him.
Right, okay, great. Thank you.
I've just been told that Councillor Morell is back.
There you go.
Councillor Morell, up to which point did you follow the meeting? We'll have to recap from there.
I got to the point where Councillor Morris was saying she had a couple more issues and then it all went dead.
Right. Well, you didn't miss much in that case.
No.
She was about to explain what they are. The delivery and servicing management plan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to make sure that the office servicing hours in paragraph 42 of the addendum report talks about deliveries and collections to be restricted between 8 and 8 Monday to Saturdays and nothing on Sundays and bank holidays. And I wondered if we could put something in the servicing hours for the other commercial units, not just for the offices. Is that possible, Patrick?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, indeed, the condition in question does actually say office, and your request is more that it's just commercial, i.e. office and retail and affordable workspace, isn't it? Yes. I think we could probably just ask Alex Oyabadi on this one. There is a separate condition that relates to delivery and servicing hours, but I accept that probably it might be best at this stage to ensure that condition clearly relates to all of the non-residential elements of the scheme. Alex, would you agree that it might be appropriate to reword that particular condition so that it clearly relates to all non-residential elements, not just the office?
Yes, it's important to reword that condition to include all non-residential buildings within that site. But the only thing, another thing I'll mention is that this development is not going to generate significant service vehicle movements per day. So spread out across the day, it's only about 82-way deliveries per day for the entire site. So,
oh really?
You say 80?
82-way vehicle movements for this entire site per day.
That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot, isn't it?
Well, if you look at it, Councillor, it's about 40 vehicles per day coming to this site. So 40 vehicles equates to 82-way vehicle movements. So that's about 4 per hour. So is not that significant for this size of development.
Councillor Morris, I'm not proposing, therefore, to take that amendment. I can see no value in it if the impact is as outlined in the report. I'm not going to take that amendment. Do you have further amendments, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. There was just one last one, which was the point that Councillor Noakes raised about the use of the office terraces, which is oh no, it's not 48. That's different. Paragraph 41, and wondered whether or not we could put any further restriction on the use of the office terraces, as he requested, not to be used on Sundays and bank holidays. Given that office premises these days quite often are 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
And what about the hours, Adele, as well?
Okay, hold on a second. So the terraces, I don't suppose, Patrick, you just bring up those terraces again on the screen, just so we're clear as regards their location.
Sorry, it's going to take a few seconds again.
That's all right. That's all right. Don't worry. It's, just so we're all clear what it is we're discussing.
Actually, thinking about it, I haven't probably got a very helpful slide to show this. I don't think I have a roof plan handy. I mean, I think we can. There is already a condition that clearly that makes very clear that we are talking about all of the commercial, essentially all of the terraces serving all of the commercial units. And unfortunately, I don't have a roof plan within this pack that would convey that. But the condition does adequately ensure that every single commercial roof terrace would be included within these limited hours. So it would simply be an amendment to the wording of that condition to whatever it is that the members would like to see in terms of changed hours and or days. Sorry.
Right, yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm looking at the screen. Like again, Councillor Morris, I've taken note of what Councillor Noakes said. I'm just browsing through the members' pack I've got here. I can see there are very few, apart from the northern side, very few residents facing this. Much of it is facing Southwark Street. I wish it's been discussed at an earlier point during our pre-meetings and so on. But I can see no reason, I can see no immediate benefit to this.
Okay.
If I may say so. Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. I don't see any benefit to that. I'm now going to press on, colleagues. I'm going to press on to the main resolution.
Have we not continued to make comments though? Because some of us.
Oh, you haven't made comment. Oh, you haven't. Oh my God. I do apologise, Councillor Rose. Please make your comment. I really want you to.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and be brief. I think the amendment that we've just made in relation to the class use is a reflection of well articulated local concerns, and if it helps alleviate the pinch point on Red Cross Way, then that I supported that. I mean, if it's later point in the development, the community would like to see something else there, then that could be a different discussion. I did want to say more generally that I actually felt that there was a scale of ambition about this scheme, and I know that there have been comments to sort of suggest otherwise. I think the ambition of the scheme to realise it in the way it has tried to reflect the historic sort of warehouse character and nature of the Maidstone Mews buildings and the Mews buildings, I think it's Calvert buildings, which actually enjoy a really high level of amenity. Looking around the site visits last week, I was familiar with the area, but I got a really good insight from inside the site and walking around it about what was there. And I think on balance, the realisation of seeing the site developed it offsets it, because I think that actually in relation to a couple of those residential blocks, there is a high level of urban unique amenity that they continue to enjoy. I think TfL if we are looking at a delivery of housing across a number of sites in different tranches, I would welcome the flexibility they've shown in this scheme, but also look forward to them being responsive to adding back some additional social housing units on other sites in Southwark, if that's the principle that we've been able to establish. But I do recognise that there are only certain sites where you can get that commercial realisation, that benefits the whole range of sites that they're dealing with on their property and estate portfolio. So I recognise that. And I think the driver around protecting Crossbones and giving it that physical buffer and zone of light and space with the amenity space that's put towards that end of the site is probably the only sensitive way. And I prioritise that personally. And I think they've done a pretty good job at trying to address that. So those are my comments, and I look forward to you asking me which way I would like to vote at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you very much. And of course, I was moving on, but I do need to give the opportunity to Councillor Makash. If I can't see you, but I know you're there somewhere, if you want to make any comment on this application.
No, I don't really have any comments. I'd share kind of some of the concerns that have been raised. I think that the amendment put forward, I think, is an improvement to the application, which I welcome. And yeah, I think I've decided my position on it, and but I'll leave you in suspense for this moment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morell. Dave Morell? Can I your comments on the application?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's without the pursuit of perfection, which I don't think we would ever get on any application. I think the benefits outweigh the negative of this. There's obviously made a clear sort of determination to fit in with the heritage, and it was good to hear what Heritage England had said on their final recommendation, which sort of helped me sway my view on the heritage side of the site. I know the site very well. It's great that the graveyard is being protected and have been financed for the next 30 odd years. So hopefully that will continue, and the local area will benefit from that over time.
Thank you very much. I won't say much. I'll just simply concur that I believe this is an ambitious project. It does fit in with the sort of architectural context in which it's located. I'm very pleased that every effort's been made to preserve and sustain the Crossbone graveyard. And the distances, as Councillor Rose has highlighted, is sensitive. I'm really pleased that this area, which I recall going back to 30, even 40 years, I'm very familiar with, and one that I used to be able to walk through, and we may, well, you never know, be able to walk through in the future. But I'm very, very conscious that this is a part of London we should make every effort wherever possible to give light to the architectural excellence that is London. I think that's all I want to say on this particular application. And if you agree with me, I will now move through to a motion. If you're satisfied, colleagues, are we happy to move to a motion? Thank you. I'll take that as a yes. So I'd like to go as follows. I'd like to move that we adopt the officer's recommendation as set out in paragraphs 1 to 2 of the report and pages 10 of the agenda pack. That the full planning permission be granted for the application reference 19AP0830, subject to conditions referral to the Mayor of London and the applicant entering into a satisfactory legal agreement. That in the event that the legal agreement is not entered into by the 30th of October 2020, the Director of Planning be authorised to refuse planning permission for 19AP030, if appropriate for the reasons set out in paragraph 341 of the report. So that is the motion. Can I obtain a seconder?
I second it, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, then, as per usual, I'll do the usual roll call, and I will start with Councillor Barry Hargrave. Are you for, against, or staying on the resolution?
For.
Thank you very much. Can I ask for Councillor Dan Noel, are you for, against or abstain on the resolution?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adele Morris, are you for, against or abstain on the resolution?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor James McAsh, are you for, against or abstain on the resolution?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Damon O'Brien, are you for, against or abstain on the resolution?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Catherine Rose, are you for, against or abstain on the resolution?
For.
Thank you very much. And I'm Councillor Martin Seaton, and I'm for the resolution. I believe the resolution is carried and one abstention. I want to thank you all for your contribution. Thank you all for your contribution, and I wish you well for this evening. Good night to you. Thank you. Thank you very much.